Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're taking a deep plunge into some really fascinating source material.
Yeah, we've got a stack of texts here, stories from the commentary on the Dhammapada, ancient stuff.
And our mission, basically, is
Yeah.
to unpack these narratives. We want to find those important nuggets of, knowledge and insight.
See what they tell us about how early Buddhists interacted with other groups back then.
Exactly. And also pull out those core Buddhist teachings that still resonate today.
Absolutely. These stories put the teachings in a very human context, don't they?
They really do. It shows the Buddha, the disciples, dealing with real situations, complaints, different beliefs.
Real life. So where do we start?
Okay, let's jump straight into the first story. It kicks off in Jetavana, familiar place.
Where Buddha spent a lot of time.
And right away, it sets up this contrast between the Buddhist monks and these other ascetics, the Titthiyas.
Right. The text describes what the Titthiyas did after getting their meal alms. They were quite interactive.
Interactive how?
Well, they'd offer blessings, for the donor's well-being, long life, happiness,
Okay, standard blessings.
but also practical stuff like, hey, watch out, there's mud ahead, or careful of thorns there. Real specific warnings.
Huh. So immediate, tangible feedback for the meal. Now, what about the Buddhist monks at this point?
Well, the source says back then they didn't have the Buddha's permission for that kind of chat or those specific blessings after meals.
Though their practice was,
Just silence. They received the food, ate, and left quietly.
wow. Okay, that's a stark difference, isn't it? One group chatting and blessing, the other completely silent.
Yeah. And the local people, they noticed.
I bet they did. What was their reaction?
They complained. They were like, hey, we get these nice blessings from the Titthiyas, but the venerable ones just walk off.
You can kind of see their point. From a social perspective, they're giving food.
Exactly. Maybe expecting some form of, verbal exchange in return.
So the monks hear this grumbling.
And they do what they always do, report back to the Buddha, which is great because it shows how the teachings adapted.
Right. So the Buddha hears the report. What's his take?
He doesn't just say, stick to the silence. He actually grants permission.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, he tells the monks basically, okay, from now on, you can offer suitable blessings after meals. You can talk with people nearby.
So it shows a certain flexibility, not just rigid rules.
Absolutely.
Wow.
It's about skillful means, isn't it? Engaging
yeah.
compassionately, adapting the form without losing the core principle.
And did it work? What was the result?
Big positive result. The text says the monks started doing it, people were inspired, invited them more, showed more respect, more support.
Strengthen the community connection then.
Definitely. That skillful adaptation really paid off.
Okay, but here's where it gets really interesting. The Titthiyas. How did they react to the monks suddenly talking after meals?
Well, they were not happy. Not happy at all.
Why not?
They saw it as, like, falling from grace. They thought silence was the mark of a true sage, a Muni.
So they complained.
Oh, yeah. They said something like, look at us, we practice silence like a true Muni. But Gautama's disciples? Wandering around talking loudly after eating.
Okay, so they're defining Muni sage purely by outward silence.
Exactly. And this gives the Buddha the perfect opening, to teach what a true Muni really is.
So he addresses their complaint directly.
Head on. He says, very clearly, I do not call someone a Muni just because they are silent. Full stop.
Okay. So why might someone be silent then, if not holiness, according to the Buddha?
He gives a few reasons. Could be ignorance, they just don't know what to say. Could be lack of confidence, or even, interestingly, stinginess, like not wanting to share their insights, hoarding knowledge.
Right, so outward silence tells you basically nothing about their inner state.
Precisely. It's not the measure.
So what is the measure? What's the Buddha's definition of a true Muni in this context?
He says one becomes a Muni by pacifying evil. The Pali is papavupassamena.
Pacifying evil. That sounds active, not passive silence.
Very active. It's about subduing the unwholesome stuff inside yourself.
And he uses that great analogy, the one with the scales.
Yes. Such a powerful image. Like someone holding scales, weighing things carefully.
How does that work?
Well, just like you take away the excess on one side of the scales and add what's needed on the other side to get balance.
Yeah.
A true Muni removes evil. That's like removing the excess unwholesome states. And they cultivate wholesomeness. That's like adding what's needed, the positive qualities, finding that inner balance.
I see. So sagehood isn't withdrawal, it's active purification.
Yeah.
Cultivation.
Exactly. And the source even lists what the Buddha called the best things. the varam that the wise person grabs onto while avoiding that evil.
What are those best things?
They're the core of the path, really. Moral discipline, sila, concentration, samadhi, wisdom, paññāna,
Okay.
then liberation, vimutti. And finally, that knowledge and vision of liberation, knowing you're free and understanding how it happened, vimutti-nyadasana.
So a Muni is someone actively developing those qualities. That's the real work.
That's the balancing of the scales, not just keeping quiet.
Makes sense. But wasn't there a second part to the definition in the verses he spoke?
Yes, good point. A Muni is also someone who, quote, understands both worlds.
Both world. What does that mean here?
The commentary explains it as understanding reality deeply, like discerning the internal and external aggregates, mind, body, the world around us.
So seeing things clearly.
Yeah, weighing them accurately, like with those scales again, understanding their nature without distortion, without delusion.
Okay, so it's twofold. Pacifying evil through ethical action and mental development, and developing this profound, clear understanding of reality.
That's the package deal. That's the true measure of a sage, according to this teaching. It reframes it completely from just outward appearance.
Inner transformation and insight. Got it.
Yeah.
And what happened after the Buddha gave this teaching?
Well, the impact was significant. The source says many listeners right there attained spiritual fruits, including stream entry.
Wow. Stream entry, the first irreversible stage, all from a complaint about monks talking too much.
It really shows the Buddha's skill, doesn't it? Using these everyday gripes to reveal incredibly deep truths.
Yeah, it really does. That story gives such great clarity on what meaning means in Buddhism. It's about that inner work, the cultivation, the understanding.
Not just the outward show.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that focus on understanding, on, seeing clearly, connects really nicely to our next story.
Which shifts the focus more directly onto the importance of view itself. Right view versus wrong view.
And how absolutely critical that difference is. It shapes everything.
Fundamentally.
So this second story, also set in Jetavana,
Mm-hmm.
but this one involves children.
Right. Specifically the children of followers of those Titthiyas we mentioned earlier.
Okay.
Playing with the children of Buddhist lay followers, people who already held right view.
So kids just being kids playing together.
Yeah.
But the parents, different worlds.
Very different perspectives, yeah. And the Tithiya parents were, let's say, protective of their beliefs.
Okay.
Very protective. When their kids came home after playing with the Buddhist kids, the parents made them swear an oath.
An oath. What kind of oath?
Basically, you must not pay homage to the Buddha's disciples, and you must not go into their monastery.
Whoa. That's drawing a pretty hard line. Trying to insulate them completely.
Totally. But, life happens. Circumstances conspire.
What happened?
Well, one day, the kids are playing near the Jetavana monastery gate again, and they get thirsty. Really thirsty.
Uh-oh. And they remember the oath.
They do, so they can't go in. What do? They send one of the Buddhist kids, the lay follower's child, into the monastery to get water for everyone.
Okay, clever workaround by the kids, so the Buddhist child goes in.
Pays respects to the Buddha, explains the situation. My friends are outside, they're thirsty, but they can't come in because of their parents' oath.
And the Buddha's response here, another example of skillful means.
Absolutely fantastic example. He doesn't just say, okay, take them some water.
No. What does he say?
He tells the child, first, you drink the water, then go tell the others they need to come into the monastery themselves if they want to drink.
Ah, he makes the water available inside, so they have to choose between thirst and the oath. Or rather, he frames it so they can come in just to drink.
Exactly. He navigates around the strict wording. They weren't told to pay homage just to come get a drink. It subtly overrides the prohibition.
Brilliant. So did they come in?
They did. Thirst won out, or maybe curiosity too. They came into the monastery grounds and drank the water.
And the Buddha, seeing them there, he didn't just let them drink and leave, did he?
No way. Opportunity. He calls the children over, speaks the Dhamma discourse that's suitable for them, understandable, plants those seeds of faith, establishes them in the three refuges, Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha, and the basic precepts.
Incredible. From just needing a drink of water to getting foundational Buddhist teachings and taking refuge. That's quite a turn of events.
A pivotal moment for those kids.
So what did they do then? Run home excited?
Pretty much. They went home and, like kids do, told their parents everything that happened.
Oh boy. How did the Tithiya parents take the news? Their kids broke the oath, went in the monastery, and took refuge with the Buddha.
They were, as you can imagine, deeply distressed. The source uses the word lamented.
Lamented. Wow.
Yeah, they felt their children had developed perverted view. From their standpoint, this was a disaster, a total wrong turn.
That really throws the conflict between the views into sharp relief, doesn't it? What happened next? Did they punish the kids?
Actually, no. What happened next was intervention. Wise neighbors, probably Buddhist followers themselves who knew the family, came over.
Ah, community support network.
Exactly. They came and spoke Dhamma to the distressed parents, helped them understand, maybe calm them down, offered a different perspective.
And did that conversation help? Did it sway the parents?
It really did. After hearing the neighbors, the parents made a huge decision.
Which was?
They decided to go see the Buddha themselves. And not just them. They gathered their children, a whole group of relatives, and went together to the monastery.
Amazing. So that initial interaction with the thirsty kids eventually brought the whole extended family to the Buddha.
The ripple effect. It's a testament to that skillful, compassionate handling of the situation right from the start.
So they arrive. What does the Buddha teach them?
Well, seeing them, seeing their state of mind, he taught them Dhamma specifically focused on view. Right view, wrong view. He spoke some key verses.
These verses sound central. What do they say?
They're very direct, very clear. The first part essentially says, people head for a bad destination, a bad rebirth, because they hold wrong view.
And wrong view is?
It's getting things backwards. Seeing fault in what is actually faultless, good, wholesome, and seeing no fault, maybe even value, in what is faulty, harmful, unwholesome. It's a basic confusion about reality and ethics.
So it's not just a philosophical error. It has real consequences, leads to suffering.
Exactly. It's a distorted lens that leads you down a bad path.
And the second part of the verse is the contrast.
Right. It says, people head for a good destination, a good rebirth, because they hold right view.
Which means seeing things clear.
Seeing clearly. Knowing what is faulty as faulty and what is faultless as faultless. Recognizing the harmful as harmful, the beneficial as beneficial. Accurate perception.
And the text links faultless specifically to right view itself and the path it supports.
Yes. Right view is faultless because it aligns you with reality, leads towards well-being, towards liberation. And faulty is that wrong view, that distortion.
It really hammers home how foundational your understanding, your perspective truly is. It determines the direction you travel.
Couldn't be clearer. Your view shapes your intention, your actions, your destiny.
And like the first story, this teaching also had a big impact.
Huge impact. The source says everyone there, the parents, the relatives, became established in the 3 refuges that day. And by continuing to listen to the Dhamma, they eventually attained stream entry too.
Remarkable. Both stories start with these, like, simple social interactions.
Yeah.
Monks talking, kids playing.
Yeah, everyday stuff.
And they blossom into these profound teachings from the Buddha that lead directly to major spiritual breakthroughs for people.
It really paints a vivid picture, doesn't it? The Buddha engaging with the messy reality of human life, different beliefs, social dynamics.
And using those moments to illuminate these absolute core principles.
Principles about what real practice means, that inner work of the Muni.
And the critical importance of just seeing straight, cultivating right view over wrong view.
Yeah, these narratives from the commentary, they're just gold, timeless insights wrapped in these very human stories.
They really are. They give us context, but also, practical guidance. They show just how vital our understanding is for the path we walk.
Stories that clearly hit home back then and still have a lot to offer now.
Absolutely. Which kind of leaves us, and you listening, with a thought to maybe reflect on. How does really understanding what makes a true Muni, focus on inner purification and insight, not just outward stuff. And how does discerning right view from wrong view? How does that affect how you evaluate things? Not just out there in the world, but actions, beliefs within yourself.
That's a good question to chew on.
Something to consider anyway. Until our next deep dive.